Hello students, in today's video I will be explaining about the contribution of Akbar, especially in the field of religion, literature and art. Before getting into the video, if anyone is seeing the channel without subscribing, please do subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. It will be of a great encouragement for me. Also, do click the bell button to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos. So without wasting time, let us get into the video. So first, let us see about the contribution of Akbar in the field of religion. So that is the first topic we are going to learn is the religious policy of Akbar. Religious policy of Akbar. So what was the different type of religious policy which was followed by Akbar? Akbar was one of the most enlightened and liberal monarchs of medieval India. So the first speciality of Akbar, he was a very liberal monarch. He was a very liberal monarch and also he was an enlightened monarch of medieval India. So why do we say this, that he is liberal and he is enlightened? He abolished the pilgrimage tax in 1563 century era. So the first thing he did was the pilgrimage tax was abolished. So he abolished the pilgrimage tax and this he did in 1563 century era. So Akbar abolished the pilgrimage tax in 1563 century era. So that was one of the most important thing done by him related to religion. Next thing, he abolished jizya. So what is jizya? Jizya was, so he abolished jizya. Jizya was a tax which non-Muslims had to pay. So whoever were non-Muslim people in the empire, they had to pay a special tax called as jizya. So Akbar abolished that also. So first thing, pilgrimage tax abolished. Second, he abolished jizya. And the next thing which he did was he appointed Hindus to high positions. So in his office he appointed Hindus to high positions, which was not done by many other rulers. So Hindus were appointed to high positions, they were given high positions and they were respected. So that was another thing done by him, and it is said that he even took part in the celebration of various Hindu festivals. So in many Hindu festivals Akbar actively participated. So these show that how much liberal he was and how much enlightened Akbar was. So in the religious policy of Akbar, Akbar was one of the most enlightened and liberal monarchs of medieval India. He abolished pilgrimage tax in 1563 century era. He also abolished jizya, that is the tax which non-Muslims had to pay. And he also appointed Hindus to high positions, and he also took part in the celebration of various Hindu festivals. Now further, let us see what all Akbar did in the field of religion. He prohibited child marriage and sati. Another good thing done by Akbar was he prohibited child marriage and sati. Sati system was also prohibited and child marriage also was prohibited by Akbar. So these two evil practices of child marriage and sati he prohibited, and furthermore he encouraged widow remarriage. So Akbar encouraged widow remarriage. So that also was a good thing and in the field of religion done by Akbar. So the next point is about a new religion founded by Akbar. So these were the liberal things done by him. Now there was a new religion specially which was founded by Akbar. Let us see the details of the new religion. The new religion founded by Akbar was called as Din-e-Ilahi. Din-e-Ilahi was the new religion introduced by Akbar. It was introduced in 1581 and it existed only till 82. That is, after Akbar's death it lost its importance. So Akbar founded a new religion the religion was called as Din-e-Ilahi. And the meaning of, if you see the meaning of Din-e-Ilahi, it is called as divine monotheism. Divine monotheism. Monotheism basically means worship of one single God. That is monotheism. So Din-e-Ilahi was a new religion introduced by Akbar. It means divine monotheism. That is worship of one single God. This religion was based on the principle of peace for all. So the basic principle of this religion was peace for all. For everyone, peace should be there. That was the basic idea of this religion. And it was an attempt to unite the people of different faith into brotherhood. So basically, he wanted to unite the people of different religion. That was the basic idea of Akbar when he introduced this new religion. So he wanted to unite the people of different faith into a brotherhood. And for the purpose of this religion, in 1582, Akbar constructed, or he built, something called as Ibadat Khana. So Ibadat Khana was made at Fatehpur Sikri, that is Akbar's capital, Fatehpur Sikri. There he constructed Ibadat Khana. Now what is Ibadat Khana? So in Ibadat Khana, the religious leaders from all religious leaders from all the religion, that is Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, Christianity, Islam. So religious leaders from all the religion will meet and hold discussions. So they meet together and they hold discussions. That is what happened in this Ibadat Khana. So in 1582, Akbar established Ibadat Khana at Fatehpur Sikri. In Ibadat Khana, religious leaders from all religion, they will meet and they will hold discussions. And Akbar assimilated the general principles of various religion and founded new religion. So in this meeting, what will happen? From all these meetings, Akbar assimilated, or he assimilated ideas from all religions. So good things from all the religion Akbar took from these meetings. So in these meetings, all the religious leaders will tell about their religion. So what Akbar did, Akbar assimilated good ideas from all these religion, and all these good ideas were joined together, and after that he founded the new religion, Din-e-Ilahi. That was what was done by Akbar. So Din-e-Ilahi was a new religion founded by Akbar, divine monotheism. Its main principle was based on peace for all. That was the basic principle. And he attempted to unite the people of different faith into brotherhood. In 1582, he made Ibadat Khana at Fatehpur Sikri, where religious leaders from all religion like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Christianity, Islam, all will meet and they will hold discussions. And Akbar, what he did was assimilated ideas from all these religion and he founded the new religion. So that was what was done by Akbar. Now what is the speciality of this religion? If a person is following Din-e-Ilahi, what they have to do? So the followers of this religion had to do certain things. Followers of Din-e-Ilahi had to do certain things, or they were expected to do some things. First thing, they had to respect all religion. So if a person is a follower of Din-e-Ilahi, they have to respect all religion. That is the first point. Now the second one, they worshipped fire. The followers of Din-e-Ilahi, they did not worship any particular god, they worship fire. That was the second principle. The third one, they celebrate their birthdays in the company of people of other religion. So they celebrate birthdays with people of other religion. That was another thing done by the people who followed Din-e-Ilahi. They celebrated birthday with people of other religion. That was another thing done by him. And they also had some rule that they will not marry older women. They will not marry older women, and they also will not marry minor girls, that is small girls. That is, child marriage was already prohibited, and they were not supposed to marry older women or minor girls. These were the basic things that a follower of Dini Ilahi had to follow. They respect all religion, worship fire, celebrate birthdays with the people of other religion, and they were not allowed to marry older women or minor girls. So these were the principles of the religion founded by Akbar, called as Dini Ilahi. So now let us see the points, or just let us revise the points we have studied till now. That is, the religious policy of Akbar. Akbar was one of the most enlightened and liberal monarchs of medieval India. He abolished the pilgrimage tax in 1563 century era. He abolished the jizya. Hindus were appointed to high post, and he took part in the celebration of various Hindu festivals. He prohibited child marriages and sati, and also encouraged widow remarriage. Now about Dini Ilahi. Akbar founded a new religion, Dini Ilahi, divine monotheism. This religion was based on the principle of peace for all. It was an attempt to unite the people of different faiths into brotherhood. In 1582, he built the Ibadat Khana at Fatehpur Sikri. Religious leaders of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Christianity and Islam would meet here and hold religious discussions. Akbar assimilated the general principles of various religions and founded the new religion. The followers of this religion were expected to respect all religion, worship fire, celebrate their birthdays in company of people of other religion, and not to marry older women or minor girls. So this much was about Akbar's religion, Dini Ilahi. We have a few more points regarding that. Akbar did not force anyone into the new religion. So Akbar, I told you always, was a liberal and enlightened person, and Akbar did not force anyone into the new religion. That is, he as a king did not force anyone into joining the new religion. Anyone who wants can join. If they don't want, they don't need to join. But the problem was, it lost its importance after the death of Akbar. The religion lost its importance after the death of Akbar. So that was the only problem with Dini Ilahi. After the death of Akbar, no one continued and it lost its importance. So this much was about Dini Ilahi. So now let us move on to the next topic, that is the patronage given by Akbar to literature. Patronage to literature, or the encouragement given to literature by Akbar. Okay, patronage to literature. A number of books in Sanskrit and other languages were translated into Persian during the time of Akbar. That is, number of books, especially in Sanskrit and other languages, were translated to Persian. That was one of the important contribution or encouragement given by Akbar to literature. And this translation of Sanskrit works into Persian was done during Akbar's period. Now a few books which were translated. The first important book, if you see, is the Mahabharata. This was translated by Nagib Khan. Mahabharata was translated by Nagib Khan. The next work, if you see, Ramayana. Ramayana was translated by Haji Ibrahim. Ramayana was translated by Haji Ibrahim. If you consider your exam point of view, the people who translated is not that important, but it is just for your information I am telling. So Ramayana was translated by Haji Ibrahim. Next is Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda and the work Leelavati. Both these works were translated by a person called as Faizi, and also some other works which were translated were Panchatantra, Nala Damayanti. Panchatantra was translated, then Nala Damayanti, so etc. So all these works were translated into Persian during Akbar's period. So once more I will tell, number of books were translated which were written in Sanskrit were translated to Persian. Example: Mahabharata by Nagib Khan, Ramayana by Haji Ibrahim, Atharva Veda and Leelavati by Faizi. Some other books which were translated were Panchatantra, Nala Damayanti, etc. So these all were the important books which were translated from Sanskrit to Persian. Now, considering the other contribution in literature, there were also many Hindi scholars during that time. Other than these translated works, there were many other Hindi scholars during that time. They were Tulsidas, then Surdas, Abdul Rahim, Birbal, etc. All were the important Hindi scholars during the time of Akbar. Now, if you consider the works of Tulsidas, the most important work was Ramacharitamanasa, written by Tulsidas, was a very important work during this period, and Sursagar, written by Surdas, was Sursagar, written by Surdas, was another important work. Surdas. Okay, then all these were outstanding works. And other than these works, there were also many historical works written during this time. So many historical works were written during this time. Some examples: Ain-i-Akbari was an important historical work. Akbarnama. Both Ain-i-Akbari and Akbarnama were written by Abul Fazl. So Ain-i-Akbari and Akbarnama were two important works written by Abul Fazl. So these were also written during the time of Akbar. So many Hindi scholars like Tulsidas, Surdas, Abdul Rahim, Birbal, etc. lived during that time, or were writing their works during that time. Ramacharitamanasa was an important work by Tulsidas, Sursagar by Surdas. Other than these works, many historical works were also written like Ain-i-Akbari, Akbarnama, both written by Abul Fazl. So these were the contributions in literature during the time of Akbar. So now let us see the points once more. Akbar did not force anyone to join the new religion, the Ilahi, but it lost its importance after the death of Akbar. Patronage to literature. A number of books in Sanskrit and other languages were translated into Persian during Akbar's period. Mahabharata by Nagib Khan, Ramayana Haji Ibrahim, Atharva Veda and Leelavati Faizi, Panchatantra and the story of Nala Damayanti were the important works that were translated. The popular Hindi scholars in Hindi were Tulsidas, Surdas, Abdul Rahim, Birbal, etc. Ramacharitamanasa of Tulsidas and Sursagar of Surdas were outstanding works. A large number of historical works like Ain-i-Akbari, Akbarnama of Abul Fazl were produced during this time. So now let us move on to the contribution or patronage of Akbar to art and architecture. So let us see about art and architecture. Art and architecture. So Akbar built many palaces. So the first example of art and architecture we see is Akbar built many palaces at Amber, and he built palaces at Bikaner, Jodhpur, etc. So many places he had constructed palaces, and each palace is an example of his contribution to art and architecture. Other than palaces, he constructed tanks, gardens, all these things he encouraged. Now some of the important constructions, if you see some examples, we can see is Buland Darwaza. This can be said as an example. Then tomb of Salim Chishti, that again is an example. Jodhabai's palace is a beautiful example of Akbar's contribution in art and architecture, Jodhabai's palace, etc. So all these were the examples of Akbar's contribution. They were most remarkable buildings built by him. So the contribution in art and architecture, if you see, palaces were there at many places like Amber, Bikaner, Jodhpur. Tanks and gardens were constructed. Buland Darwaza, tomb of Salim Chishti, Jodhabai's palace. Again you can say Agra fort, that also is an important example. So all these were remarkable buildings built by Akbar. So altogether we can see that Akbar was the greatest of Mughal emperors. Now we will see a conclusion about Akbar. So if you see all these things, we understand that Akbar was the greatest of Mughal emperors. With all these contributions, he is considered as the greatest of Mughal emperors. So although he was illiterate, Akbar, you know that the condition in which he was born. So although he was illiterate, he had profound sense of grasping the details and had a wonderful memory. It is said that he could very easily grasp the details. He has a great grasping capacity, and he also had a wonderful memory. Akbar had a great grasping capacity and he had a wonderful memory. And it is said that he had great knowledge about many things. It is said that he had great knowledge about philosophy, he had great knowledge about literature. See, if he did not have knowledge about literature, he wouldn't have encouraged translation of Sanskrit works into Persian. So he had great knowledge about literature, he had great knowledge about history and many other branches of knowledge and science. And other than that, he was a great conqueror. He had conquered many places, and one more thing, he was a great statesman. His administration was wonderful and he was a great statesman. Because of all these reasons, Akbar is called as Akbar the Great. So these were the reasons why he was called as Akbar the Great. So Akbar was one of the greatest of Mughal emperors. Although he was illiterate, he had a great grasping capacity. He grasped details very easily and he had a wonderful memory. He had acquired knowledge of philosophy, literature, history and many other branches of knowledge. And he was a great conqueror and a statesman, and because of all these reasons, Akbar is called as Akbar the Great. So these were the important points regarding Akbar. Now let us see the last points. That is contribution art and architecture. Akbar built many palaces at Amber, Bikaner and Jodhpur. He also constructed many tanks and gardens. Buland Darwaza, tomb of Salim Chishti, Panch Mahal, Jodhabai's palace, Agra fort, etc. were the most remarkable buildings built by him. Akbar was the greatest Mughal emperor. Although he was illiterate, he had profound sense of grasping the details and had a wonderful memory. He also acquired knowledge of philosophy, literature, history and other sciences. He was a great conqueror and statesman, and because of all these reasons, Akbar is called Akbar the Great. So I hope you have understood all the points very clearly. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comment section. And if you have liked the video and if you wish to encourage me, please do subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. As I have told before, still almost 75% seeing my channel have not subscribed. So please encourage by subscribing to my channel. So I hope to see you soon in the next video. Thank you for watching.